I am 13 years old, and I live in a desert. My favorite place in the world is my family's cabin. I'm on Highway 1 in California. I'm 14
right
years
next
old
to the
at a
ocean
concert in
in
Colorado.
Colorado.
15 years old watching the sun set over the Rocky Mountains.
This lake
in New
was
Orleans.
8 years old
I'm
climbing
astounded. I am 20 years old, and I'm worried about the environment. Some of the best memories of my entire life take place in a city that, by all accounts, should be uninhabitable. Phoenix, Arizona is a desert, one that set numerous heat records in 2020. You know when you hear about something, like you hear people talk about it, or you see something on the news, and you understand it, but you don't fully comprehend it until you experience it yourself? That's climate change for me. You know, I've known about it all my life, and I understand that it's bad, but a few days ago something changed. I've been reading this book, 21 Lessons for the 21st Century, and late last Saturday I got to the chapter on climate change. So the author Yuval Noah Harari had written about some pretty mind-boggling stuff so far, including the future of AI, some challenging thoughts on the ethics of technology, but nothing struck a chord with me as much as what he had to say on the environment. I honestly believe that the impending ecological disaster is humanity's #1 problem right now. Calling what's happening to our planet climate change is factual, but I don't think it hammers home the severity of the situation we're in. In 2020, the world is in a climate crisis. There are a few things we need to be worried about when it comes to resource consumption, but I'm mostly concerned about things that will cause lasting negative environmental changes. The main cause of global warming is increased emissions of greenhouse gases, specifically carbon dioxide, that are caused by a few human activities. The largest human-created producer of CO2 are power plants. Power plants burn fossil fuels, typically coal, to produce electricity, and this accounts for about 40% of all CO2 emissions. 33% of emissions come from transportation. This includes cars, boats, planes. The third largest cause of emissions is industrial farming. Deforestation and oil drilling are worth mentioning as well. Okay, so if you're anything like me, chances are right now you're thinking, duh, Cass, I know what global warming is and I know it's bad. So why am I taking the time to explain this? In school, we always learn the basics first. You start learning algebra with addition because it would make absolutely no sense to start with polynomial equations. If you don't understand the basic fundamentals of a subject, you can't hope to understand the more advanced topics. You have to learn the fundamentals first because that's when they're easiest to understand. But in life and in current events, we rarely consume information in a linear fashion. Each person consumes a bit of information from a bunch of different sources and then has to synthesize that into something that makes sense to them. I think this is why climate change didn't truly hit home with me until I was 20 years old reading a random book at 1 a.m. Something I'd been hearing about my entire life had never before been explained to me in a top-down fashion. And when I did finally feel it, not just understand it, but feel it, it felt absolutely terrifying. Earlier I said I believe the climate crisis is humanity's #1 problem right now. That's because, opposed to nuclear war or technological advancement, every single human, plant, and animal relies directly on something that's already there. The Earth isn't some unseen threat we need to defend from. Rather, it is the only thing that without, all other problems become obsolete. And on a more personal level, I just really love the outdoors. I don't want to see habitats destroyed by my species, especially before I've had the chance to see them. How do we stop the climate crisis? We stop producing so much CO2. It's really not that complicated. But that would require a massive makeover to the biggest industries in the world at the expense of time, comfort, and seemingly most important, money. For capitalist economies like the United States, that isn't going to happen on its own. Human nature has shown to be more interested in self-advancement over global welfare, at least on a macro level thus far. Frankly, I have no idea how to remodel modern society in a way that satisfies everyone, but then again, I'm just a 20-year-old kid. I am one of 7.8 billion people, and I feel like no matter what I do, as an individual, my actions could never be enough to get us off the path we're on. But that is why I wanted to make this video. You know, I was feeling down because I feel like my individual choices don't matter, and that feeling almost caused me to give up on the whole thing entirely. Like, if it's all going to shit and I'm just one microscopic cog in a money-making machine, why even try to change things? Here is a harsh truth. Nothing I do will matter. I could, as an individual, produce the minimum amount of carbon dioxide necessary to survive, and at the end of my life, nothing would change. In that way, my actions don't matter. Okay, but two things to that. One, humans, we're weird, we're social creatures. The actions I take can influence other people's decisions, which leads me to number two. If enough people, whether independently or inspired by one another, take similar actions, humans can create change unprecedented by any species before us. While one human is powerless, a group of humans is the most powerful force on Earth. That's so cool. So that's it. The individual choices I make do matter, and so do yours, whether you feel like they do or not. I'm doing a couple things to reverse this climate crisis in my own small way. The most personal, I'm done eating beef. In the food industry, beef is by far the most harmful to produce. It emits more than double the greenhouse gases of any other industry. And once again, while me not eating beef isn't going to do much, if enough 20-somethings change their diet and talk about it, eventually it does make a difference. Going vegan is something I've been thinking about doing for the past year anyways, and while I'm not ready to make that big change, I can cut out beef today and stick with it no problem. The only thing, I really hope In-N-Out adds an Impossible Burger soon, because that one's gonna be tough. I'm also talking to the owner of the local restaurant I work at about setting up some sort of recycling system. If you've ever worked at a restaurant, you know the honestly impressive amount of trash one can produce, and I'd rather see some of it get recycled than all of it thrown into a landfill. My friend Brian and I are also setting up a day where we're gonna pick up all the garbage and litter around the restaurant. And finally, I'm creating this video. The title is Let's Talk About Climate Change, and I do mean just that. I really believe that discussion is the best way to filter through the stimuli of daily life and decide what is important. To me, the earth is important. The outdoors are important, and stopping climate change is important. What about you? Is this video striking a chord with you as well? Is sustainability and eco-friendliness something you've been supporting for years? If you did enjoy watching this, I'd like to ask a favor of you. Could you talk to someone about this? Like someone you know on a personal level, like a friend or a parent? Just getting their thoughts on it and sharing your own. I really just do believe that discussion is the best way to move in a positive direction. That's all I got. Thanks for watching, friends.